Are you trying to dominate your fantasy football league? Do you want so many championship rings it's impossible to sign autographs? Well, crack open a beer, pour yourself a glass of bourbon, and settle in, because you've come to the right place. Welcome to HammerCast.
Welcome to the HammerCast Network. On this special episode of Dynasty Debate, we're bringing back John Camacho, a resident Miami Dolphin fan, to talk about Tua Tagovailoa and whether or not we think he is QB1 or is he a bust in the NFL. So, John, we know you're a Dolphins fan. We kind of want to get your take. Initially, how did you feel about the controversial year last year with Fitz and Tua and all these kind of things going on with Miami?
Yeah, so, I want to give this because I'm not going to be complimentary at times, so I want to frame it in a way where he had moments. He did. The end of the Cardinals game was one of the big moments where I was like, man, I might have actually really been wrong about this dude and think he's going to be a dude. For those of you who don't know me, I was not high on him coming out, was not a fan, did not think he deserved to be drafted in the top 5, thought he was a mid-first round guy that had potential but didn't see superstar quality. So that was kind of like my take, and we don't have to argue that right now, but that was just like my pre-draft take. Obviously went to the Dolphins, which had been rumored for years. Look, I'm a Dolphins fan. Second he was on the Dolphins, I'm rooting hard for him, and I still am. Just to answer your question, yeah, look, the Dolphins made the right decision every time they benched him. If you're trying to win the football game, they made the right decision. I'm sorry, I know that people want to talk about confidence and all these other things. He wasn't playing well. You take him out. You got to be an adult at a certain point and just kind of deal with it moving forward. Love the guy, but he didn't play well this year. Struggled, I feel like, to see the field. Played very small in the pocket, which was like a huge issue. Felt like if he wasn't, I think the term happened. Somebody mentioned it on the broadcast saying NFL Open versus College Open, and that became a huge thing that people were saying. And look, I think it's certainly a fair point as well that he just wasn't willing to make those tight window throws, But I think in a perfect system, in a perfect situation, he can thrive, and I do think he's a gamer that can have moments. So I'm not completely out on him, but as a Dolphins fan, yeah, I'm already kind of looking ahead, thinking, man, there's a brighter future out here than what I think Tua can bring.
And it's crazy to think about because as someone who I loved Tua in college before his injury. So his hip injury was a big deal. And I think that has hindered him more than a lot of people would like to realize. I know he came back and everybody was like, oh, Tua's back. He's looking there. But he's not back yet. And I think, Jeff Miller, who's a very good injury guy, and you can find him on Twitter and a lot of different websites, he talks about how that torque that he has to get for those long, deep passes, it's not there right now. And his body is just not physically able to hit. I feel like one area of concern for him, what I saw, was his arm strength before the hip fracture. Like, when you look at his arm strength before the hip fracture, it wasn't the greatest deep ball throws, and you look at kind of what he did. If you look at playerprofiler.com, his deep ball completion percentage was 36%. So he definitely struggled with his deep ball. And then he hurt his hip. And now you can even tell, damn. But there are times where you're like, wow, he actually hit that deep ball, but it's very inconsistent. So the thing I worry about with Tua is his inconsistency to throw that deep pass. And when you look at his player profiler, when you look at kind of his air yards, everything kind of trended down even before the hip injury. So I think that's my biggest concern. What is one of your concerns about him in terms of his throwing? Is it kind of his decision making? What do you see?
Yeah, so look, you mentioned it. Look, he didn't have a special arm, and it's just not on. It's not just on deep throws. He's very, very accurate. He's ultra accurate, very good mechanics, but it's not a special arm. It's not. It's a fine arm. It could be NFL starter material, but it's not like the exciting arms that we see coming out. It seems like with some of the top names in the NFL. And you're absolutely right. That torque that he's able to get. I don't know that I specifically noticed the injury. I definitely noticed him. I feel like. Had a little bit fear of getting hit, or at least didn't want to get out of the pocket when there was guys around him and things like that. I noticed that at times, maybe later on. I think maybe after he probably took a couple hits, because early his first couple weeks, there was a lot of exciting stuff, but our defense was playing at the top of the league at that point. The couple of games there in the middle of the season, and he didn't have to do a whole lot. He could very just simply manage the game, and everything was fine. So yeah, look, I definitely agree with the arm. for me, it is the pocket presence and his ability to handle the pressure and things like that. That was the biggest thing that kept coming up, because I do think, look, is the deep ball ever going to be super special? No, probably not. But it's fine. I don't think teams are just going to do what they did to Drew Brees this year and just kind of like just disregard anything past the 20 yards down the field. I don't think it's anything along those lines. And he's he can slice and dice you. He has those chances, but pocket breaks down. If things aren't perfect around him, it's a struggle, and more often than not, it's not a successful play, and that's really where I have an issue. I want a guy that can elevate, and I didn't see that this year. I'm not saying it can't come, but I certainly didn't see it this year.
So I'm glad you brought it up, because that's one of my other concerns. Is like his pocket mobility was awful this year, but at Alabama it was good. So like I feel like that I think the injury you have to think about that, but it also could be like maybe the NFL speed. These guys are rookies, and I think honestly, to me, when I think of rookie quarterbacks, 3 seasons should be what we give them, but we don't give them that anymore, because this is this constant like, oh, he's not good. Look what Herbert's doing. Look what all these guys are doing. But some of these guys need a lot. Look at Tannehill. He needed what 10 seasons. It feels like. I mean, he needed that long. I know. Tannehill's your guy.
That's a whole other thing. But Tannehill was let down by the Dolphins a couple times.
I know.
Right there, but
we got to give these guys more time, right? Like we got to do it. And again, also, you can't discredit Tua too much. You can't make it all onto it. His weapons were not great. Like Preston Williams got hurt. After that, Devontae Parker's not a wide receiver 1. I think he's a solid wide receiver 2. I don't think he's a wide receiver 1 in my eyes. I think he's okay, but I don't put him in that category. You got to do it for more than 1.5 seasons for me before I start putting you up higher than that. And the running back, Gaskin's a nice story, but again, they didn't necessarily have a ton of talent around Tua. So I definitely think that he had to wait on his receivers a little bit more, and he had to get open because there was some separation issues. So we could see that reason for being why he got sacked so many times, hitting the pocket. And I do think, when we looking at his tape and we were looking at kind of what he was doing, we talked about his arm and his movement. When you watch his throwing motion at Alabama, he used all of his body. He used his hip, his trunk, his arm, everything. When you watch him at Miami, it's straight arm. Like when you watch him, you will notice most of that stuff, he doesn't come through, and that worries the hell out of me. Now, I don't know if that can be fixed, right? Like, so when we're thinking of this, I don't know. Do you think he's fixable? What do you think?
Yeah, so if the Dolphins and the team believes that the injury was still seriously impeding him, because I've said all along I wanted him to sit all year. I didn't want Fitz to come out last year. I really didn't. I thought he needed that year, and I'm kind of disappointed like it kind of worked out this way. But again, we'll see what happens. Yeah, I think he's fixable. I think the ceiling is there. I think we saw at least like he is never going to hit what Herbert can hit. Like the Dolphins are already missed on what's probably going to be the second best quarterback in the draft in Herbert, right? Obviously Burrow being number 1. So he's never going to hit that. That's always going to sting from a fan's perspective. That I'm gonna watch the Chargers play every week, and I'm gonna think, yeah, there's certain things that just Tua will never be able to do physically that Herbert's gonna be getting done. That I think is the big thing. Can he be a competent, good NFL starter that can win a lot of games with people around him? Because you mentioned weapons. Look, I think Devontae Parker is a pretty good wide receiver. I'll grant you, not top end wide receiver 1. I think he's really good and definitely needs a counterpoint. But you mentioned Preston Williams went down, who was an awesome, undrafted guy that we were able to get. But also our number 3, 4, and 5 receiver either went down or opted out too. So it was like, we did get screwed over. Hopefully, even if we don't draft a wide receiver high, if we can just stay healthy, we'll have a better wide receiver core next year. We were throwing to Darren Smythe and tight end 3 because we had to at certain points of the season. So that's definitely a fair point. It is tough to give him 10 games and say, man, your season's over. Your chance is done. I don't think it's fair. I think this season this offseason specifically, with some of the other options, I have 2 guys I would be willing to cut bait for Tua for. And
hold on. Before you go there, I want to show you these pictures because I made sure I found them. Now, it's a little grainy, but this is the differences between his hip, right? So This is what it looked like at Alabama. So you see how he kind of comes through and he has it there. And this is what he looks like in Miami. So you can see his plantar leg. He throws the ball before he can get all the way around. So I'll show you guys that again. Okay, so there's his hip. You'll see his left leg. He's really putting a lot of pressure on that hip, and you can see kind of that's how his torque goes. And this is what it looks like in Miami. So there's a difference between even just his throwing motion. Like there's a legitimate difference.
So I will say I don't know, because that's definitely a fair point. I would wonder if maybe that was said, hey, you're getting a little bit too outside, and we need to tighten that up. If maybe that was a taught thing, and so I don't know, but it's absolutely fair to say. I have definitely wondered. I'm not going to say definitively that hip is the main issue, because I do think there are other issues. But yeah, you're absolutely right. The hip is certainly something to mention, and certainly something to keep an eye on. Hopefully, we can see a more refined or a better arm. I'll just put it that way. A better arm, because the hip is better, and we got everything working together a little bit more. But yeah, no, very, very good point. Very good pictures there.
Who are your guys? So I know you're about to talk about it, but I mean, I think one's got to be Watson. I think that's there. But I'm interested to hear your second guy. So what do you, if they can get Watson? I mean, I'm all for that. I'm drafting a damn. If I can get Watson, Deshaun Watson, if the AG is, QB1s they're hard to come by. So what do you think about that?
Yeah. So first of all, Watson is we can get Watson, get him. Because the thing is, I'll trade whatever we have to trade. Send Tua over. There's talk that the GM likes Tua. Now listen, I don't know if it's going to happen. There's rumors that the Texans don't want to trade him, not going to trade him. But at the same time, that's what I would say if I'm trying to drive up the price too. So what's going to happen there? We don't know. I would be willing to give up a lot of assets for Watson, and I apparently from the Dolphins fans that I've talked to, I'm in the minority saying that. But I will give up whatever we have to in the next 2 drafts, for the most part, at least within somewhat reason, to get a guy that I know is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL that is going to elevate my team and is going to make my 10-win Dolphins team. People forget that we were 10 wins with a rocky quarterback situation. Get them over the hump into that 11-12 competing with the Buffalo Bills every year kind of situation, because we were at the top end of the good teams. Or not the top end. We were in the middle of the pack of the good teams, and then there's that tier of the great teams that we were never really ever going to get close to. So that's that next level of teams that you want to get into a little bit.
Okay.
So that's fair, right? Like we all know what Watson is. That's the easy one.
I think the question is how much you give up for him. So I think that's the Dolphins did an amazing job of getting all these picks and rebuilding. And I think the question, I mean, think about it. Just think about how many draft picks they have this year. I mean, it's absurd, right? Like they have 15.
We're set up. We're good. Yeah. I would give up 3 in Tua, three firsts in Tua, the 2 firsts this year and a first next year in Tua right now. And if we give up a second, hey, maybe throw in a 3rd or 4th down the line or something like that. But I would be willing to start the conversation with 3 firsts and a Tua. And I think that's gotta be a conversation starter.
Well, where are you going in the draft then? What do you think? So what are we talking about with these other guys that you're talking about?
There's one guy, obviously, listen, if Lawrence was an option, of course I would talk about that, but that's not an option. We know that. Zach Wilson's a guy I think is an immediate upgrade. And listen,
Zach Wilson.
That's the bold take. That's the thing that people aren't, people can disagree with or whatever. And I'm gonna stick to my views. Zach Wilson is, to me, he's the number 2 in this class, and I think we're kind of we might have this a separate argument on QB, so we don't have to get into that right now. But for me, I believe he is an immediate upgrade, and if he is there at 3, I would be willing to trade Tua for like a late first, like say the Saints or Colt or somebody like that is willing to go get a Tua. They're not in position. If Wilson was there at 3, I would send off a Tua and take Wilson at 3. I really would. I think that's an immediate upgrade. That takes away all my questions about Tua, and then puts them into the rookie Wilson. But I feel more confident in the rookie Wilson.
Okay, hey, that's a hot take. That's spicy.
That is a hot take.
That's Shaq eating chicken wings. Spicy hot take. I don't know about Wilson. I feel like Fields would be more my guy in that spot. But I know you're, but hey, it is what it is. I think, for me personally, let me think about this. So for this purpose, I did a mock for you. So I want to hear what you would think about let's say you stuck with Tua and then we'll go through the scenario. So pick 3 can be anything, really. To be honest with you, I could see you guys, if you stay, maybe trading back because someone wants to get up in that top 5 for a quarterback. But if we say that they picked him, I mocked the offensive tackle from Oregon, Penny Sewell there. So you get a solid offensive tackle that can be there for 10 years, help your run game and your passing game, help protect Tua. What do you think about that first pick?
Yeah, look, that was the guy I was hoping to get. Throughout the year, I think it's either Sewell. I would be really, really happy with Chase there too. Even if we stood at 3, I think that might be a hot take too. That I would be willing to take Chase at 3. I would be though. I would much prefer to trade back with maybe like the Panthers. I've seen that a couple times, and still hopefully get Chase or one of the top tackles. But yeah, Sewell, no problem with that. He's a stud left tackle. Basically, what that would have meant is we traded our left tackle of the future, Tunsil, for a new, just as highly scouted left tackle, and then a bunch of other picks. And I would be totally fine with that that trade overall.
And it's cheaper. Yeah,
exactly.
And then my next 2 picks, and I moved around a little bit, and I was able to get Jalen Waddle, who I think is wide receiver 2. So Waddle for me is my wide receiver 2, and Chase Waddle. Waddle is my wide receiver 2.
So Smith is 3 for you.
Smith is 4.
Wow, that's awesome. It's the side. It's the body, right?
It's just I can't get past the body, guys.
I absolutely agree. I thought I was crazy for thinking that. I have Smith, Waddle, and Marshall right in that same tier, and Smith could easily be I thought I was the only one saying that. That's awesome to hear. I'm glad. That makes me not feel as crazy.
I have Terrace Marshall is my wide receiver 3. Actually, I'm very high on Marshall. And then so we got Waddle, who I think is a steal at that spot, and then I drafted in the second round Javonte Williams from North Carolina. So to me, when you're looking at those picks, now Javonte is someone that you got to really study. I like his tape, but some people really like his tape more than I do. But that gives you a running back who I think is explosive to pair with Gaskin. That gives you Waddle, who could be your wide receiver 1. Then you get an offensive tackle. And I feel like that is a good framework for building around Tua and could lead him to being a kind of a QB1 and can he may never be that guy that's going to throw for 4,500 yards, 40 touchdowns, but he's a guy that can lead you and make smart decisions. What would you think about if you got those weapons?
So love the first 2. Williams is my number 3, first of all. So I will say he's my number 3 running back. I think at the beginning of the second round, I with everything else going on, are both of the top running backs going to be off the board? We did a video that came out a couple days ago talking about Etienne and Harris. I still think Harris goes to the Falcons at the beginning of the second round. So that would be Harris, at least in my, and I could be wrong on that, obviously. Are both those guys off the board? I still feel like that's still the range for like one of the top 2 running backs. There's definitely a drop off to Williams. Love Javonte Williams a whole lot. There, I would probably, just as a Dolphins fan, I would probably want to go D tackle or linebacker there. Honestly, the offensive line is deep this year. I would go another offensive lineman. Give me one of the top guards. I'd be happy as hell. Just to shore up that offensive line, I would have no problem with that. I think Tua, look, we mentioned it, or I mentioned it. I need a good offensive line around this dude. So that's the first step. And hey, you're never going to go wrong there. Look, I like Myles Gaskins. I love the story. I get really hype about the 7th round pick out of Washington that ends up being the starter. So I love that kind of stuff. And I also think the Dolphins of late, the past 2 years, have really shown they understand draft value very, very well. So I don't foresee them taking a running back in the first 2 days. I think they will go running back again day 3. I could see Carter from North Carolina being there. A lot of good names in the 3rd round that I could certainly see off the top of my head. I'm blanking, obviously, but there's a lot of names there that I could see there. But yeah, if we got Javonte Williams, I would not be disappointed in the slightest. I love that dude. He's awesome.
No, so okay. So when we're thinking about Tua, so if let's say we get those weapons and those guys, so we're talking about Dynasty. So Dynasty Debate, we're looking at this and we're thinking, okay, when you look at the quarterback position, after the first 12, it gets very, your rankings and you're looking at your quarterback rankings. There's a big turnover right now, and there's a cliff. There is a cliff, and it is a giant cliff, guys. Like there is, and so when we look at Tua, I don't know if you have your rankings, but what tier do you fit him in? And also I'll say mine in a minute, but tier, and then also, are you buying, holding, or selling him in Dynasty? What are you doing with him?
Well, what can I sell him for? Like I mean, this is a sell low year. I feel like, right? Like nobody's going out to buy Tua because we don't know what's going to happen with the quarterback situation. I feel like.
Well, I can give you an example because I have them up. So if you guys have DLF, definitely check this out. It's the trade analyzer. Tua got traded for Darrell Henderson and a first. So a top 5.
Yeah, I'm Darrell Henderson and a first.
So essentially a first, guys. That's not.
Yeah, because Henderson's not going to be a starter.
So would you trade Tua for a top 5 pick in this draft?
Yes, I would. I think I would. Yeah. I get if people would say no to that, but I think I would, yes.
And these are super flex. So when we're talking about this is a super flex trade. So that's kind of how that looks. So would you trade him for a top 5 pick? I don't know. If I could get one of my guys like Trey Lance, who I really like, I might do it, to be honest, after seeing what Tua was. But if it goes over that top 5 where I'm not guaranteed a quarterback, I probably am going to move on. What do you think about that?
So in Superflex, does that mean I'm just running in a Superflex draft because I don't think I've ever done a Superflex draft? That's are 4 quarterbacks going ahead of me at 5, or am I getting a chance at like one of the top 4 quarterbacks in this class?
So if you're going Superflex, what I would say is what's going to probably happen is it's going to go Lawrence Fields, either Chase or Harris, and then it gets complicated. Then it's going to depend on basically. Okay. I would say Lance, Wilson, and those guys are going to go in the top 7.
Yeah, if I feel confident that I can either get Lance, Wilson, or Fields, I'm making that trade. Yeah, I am, and I'll roll the dice there. On top of you get a little bit of extra value with Henderson, whatever that ends up being. Probably I don't think it's much, but if you can at least get some kind of complementary piece that you like on top of one of those other guys, yeah, I make that move. I think because you talked about top 12. Listen, Tua will not be a top 12 fantasy quarterback for fantasy purposes, and it's just the way that they want to play football. It's just not going to happen. Maybe down the line when he has become an expert of the game and can just slice and dice any team, never gets confused or anything like that. Yeah, it's possible. I don't think in the next 2 or 3 years you're seeing Tua as a top 12. I think I'm very happy if fantasy purposes he's a quarterback 2, and if NFL purposes he is managing the game and putting us in winning situation consistently. So I think that's what we're looking for Tua. I don't think the stats are ever going to be there because look, the Dolphins, the coaching staff and the way they're going, they want to play defense around the ball. I mean, that's at the end of the day, they want to play complementary football. They want to be solid on all three fields and everything like that. Maybe not just run the ball is probably the wrong thing because that's not really what we were last year. But I don't think we're the team that's just going to be tossing it constantly. I don't think that's what the Dolphins are going to be over the next couple of years.
Those are fair points. I have Tua as my QB14 right now. So I have him just outside that top 12, kind of in that weird tier with, Jalen Hurts and maybe, what can you get out of Matt Ryan, Baker Mayfield's around there, Matthew Stafford. I have him kind of in that tier because I still think there's unknowns and questions.
Everybody you mentioned is higher than Tua for me. Because Hurts, I do think Tua is the better quarterback, but Hurts has that rushing component that he's going to get rushing touchdowns that Tua is just never going to get. You have Matt Ryan, who, I mean, listen, I'm happy as hell if Tua can be Matt Ryan in the NFL. But Matt Ryan has way more weapons than Tua has, and that's going to be true for a while. So Matt Ryan goes ahead of him, I feel like. And Matt Ryan's defense is much worse. They're going to be in situations where they need to throw it much more often than the Dolphins are. I'm sorry, we're in a good spot right now defensively. We're looking pretty good, and I think it's just going to get better because a lot of these younger guys, these day 3 guys, they're hitting. I mean, we're getting lucky with a Van Ginkel who's just it just is exploding onto the scene. I think it'll be really good next year. So for the Dolphins' perspective, yeah, all of those guys. Can you go down the list? Well, because Baker, I think is still probably. Yeah, I think I'd probably rather have Baker.
Ryan Tannehill.
I'd rather have Ryan.
I'd have Ryan. Kirk Cousins.
See, a lot of this is I know everybody else is going to be playing and starting in 2 years. I don't know that's the case for Tua. So that brings it down for me because it's Tua's upside is higher than a Kirk Cousins and a Ryan Tannehill fantasy wise. But I mean, I know Ryan Tannehill will be starting, for the Titans in 2 years. I feel very confident about that. At least, we know Kirk Cousins isn't getting out of the contract anytime soon, so he's starting. Tannehill, man, he could be gone this year. Yeah, keep going down the list. I'm curious. I want to know where my line is because I don't have my dynasty rankings. I'd be curious to see where I end up with it.
Well, after Tua, it kind of goes Jared Goff. I think I'd rather go with Tua.
Yeah, I'd rather have Tua. Yeah.
Carson Wentz. I'd rather have Tua.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones. I'd probably rather have Tua, to be honest, because I think his upside is there. I think after that, Derek Carr, Sam Darnold, those guys, I feel like I'm still riding with Tua.
I think so. We're on the same page there, because all those guys would rather have Tua over. Yeah.
And as I'm glad you brought up the rushing floor, and then we'll kind of go with this, and we'll kind of finish up our thoughts. But a lot of people say, "Oh, he has a high rushing ceiling." He really doesn't. When you look at him, his most yards he ever rushed for Alabama was 190, and he had only 9 career touchdown rushing. So when we look at career rushing touchdowns, career rushes, those type of things, he's not really a running quarterback. And I think people put that in perspective sometimes, and they're like, oh, yeah, well, he can do things with his feet. Well, he doesn't really. And with a hip injury, he's definitely not going to expose himself. So I think we got to be careful with our narratives with these guys because sometimes we just kind of fall in these weird categories. I've seen it a lot, like, oh, well, he could do things with his legs. Well, kind of. But not gonna get you fantasy points that way. So for me,
I absolutely agree. I don't see him as having a rushing floor really. He'll get you like 10 to 15 rushing yards a game probably. Like he'll scramble from time to time. And I think maybe where that comes from is he is really good at throwing on the run. Like he's very accurate and very very precise thrower on the run, and that's awesome. But he runs behind the line of scrimmage. And he doesn't consistently go get positive gains on rushing. Like he's getting out of trouble more often than he is, rushing down the field. But I'm glad you said that because that's a false narrative.
Yeah, so for me, I think he can. I don't think he's a bust yet. I don't think we can categorize him a bust. But I think that we have to be concerned. We got to be a little nervous. And I think that I don't know if he's a QB1 yet. I think that he's in the middle right now. He's in purgatory. He's in QB1 purgatory because I don't know. He's going to have to show something next year, but he could very well not be a QB starting quarterback after next year if he doesn't show that he's doing it. So for me, he's a hold unless I can get like a top 5 pick. Unless I know I can get one of these rookies who I'm very high on, I'm gonna hold him. But if I can get one of these rookie quarterbacks, I will move that. And I don't know if you can out there right now because his value is so low. So I think he got to be a hold, and then you have to think about moving him. So any final thoughts before we?
Yeah, I think because it's funny. We said is he a QB1 or a bust? I think at best he's right in between. Like even if he's a QB1, I don't think he'll ever be a top end QB1. So if you can get trade value, like you said, I would rather have the lottery ticket of one of these other guys coming out, especially one of those top 4, like you mentioned. But hey, look, in a super flex type of league, especially, it's not a bad thing to have a solid QB2 that's putting up, a touchdown to, consistently putting up 2 touchdowns a game, things like that. But yeah, I absolutely agree. I think at best he is bottom end QB1 in fantasy and probably more of a QB2 type of guy.
Yeah, no, I feel very comfortable if he's my QB3 in a super flex league or QB2, and I'd be a little nervous if he's my QB2. So, all right, well, hey, let us know what you guys think. Let me know if you guys think he's a QB1. Maybe let me know what you would trade for him, what he's out there. Other than that, we appreciate you hearing. Hey, hit that like button if you like it. Subscribe, please, and let us know how we did. So we appreciate you guys tuning in.
Did you get all that? If not, make sure you head over to HammerCast.com, subscribe, and join the Hammer Nation. Until next time, keep grinding.